Today we're going to talk about 7 takeaways from Oklahoma's win against Texas for the Big 12 championship. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we are going to talk about 7 takeaways from Oklahoma's 39-27 win against the Texas Longhorns. So to start, Big 12 officiating and the Big 12 conference still are a shambles and still are garbage at the jobs. But even they couldn't mess this game up, even when they tried, with some penalties that seemed to be just kind of whatever, but also with the review of plays for which everybody in the stadium, everybody watching the game live, everybody watching the game on TV were like, why are we reviewing this? We understand, we get it. Also missed some blatant horns up from Sam Ehlinger after all this talk about how horns up, horns down is taunting. Bob Bowlesby goes on Dan Patrick's show on Friday to say if it is construed as taunting by the officials, they're going to call it. Well, Reggie Smith and the crew didn't seem to see any taunting, and yet felt like Oklahoma would get called if they threw the horns down. And then late, when Grant Calcaterra spikes the football, he gets the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Whatever. This conference just does not like Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma has won the Big 12 championship 4 straight years running. That is 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. Oklahoma owns the belt. The next takeaway is that the rushing attack from Oklahoma was really kind of awful. This is a team that had been running up and down and all over folks like a steamroller goes over pavement. Like, this rushing attack was averaging close to 300 yards rushing for the month of November. And with Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon and Kyler Murray and that offensive line, you expected to see something like that against Texas, but Texas did a good job stopping the run. 40 rush attempts by Oklahoma, just 129 yards, 3.2 yards per rush. It's something that you would like to see fixed. Obviously, you want to be able to run the ball well, but with Oklahoma being able to just hit receivers, which we'll talk about later, and the way that Kyler Murray was able to facilitate the passing game, you just look at this offense and you have to be in awe of it. Still managed to get over 500 yards of offense with an anemic run attack. My third takeaway is that Roger Goodell is going to call CeeDee Lamb's name in the NFL draft in 2020 because that man is just that good. It's been a very long time since CeeDee Lamb has an opportunity to be the highest drafted wide receiver in Oklahoma history, not just because he's an outstanding talent and those hands are enormous and he's got tremendous bounce, but he has the prototypical size that you want to see in an NFL wide receiver if you are an NFL team, in the way that, say, Hollywood Brown does not. CeeDee Lamb had 6 catches for 167 yards and a TD, and 1 fumble that seemed to be costly but wasn't in the way that it could have been, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But my next takeaway is also wide receiver related in that Hollywood Brown did not have a good game, even when he had his 5 catches, and he dropped some passes that we all thought that he should have caught. One in particular that was going to be a sure 6 that just went right through his hands. Kyler Murray dropped a dime on him. But then you come to find out later, his ankle seemed to be okay, but it was his foot that was bothering him. So much so that he had trouble putting weight on it heading into the 4th quarter and was out on crutches to end the game. So really going to try to figure out what's going on with him, and he might need the entire month to heal, and maybe even then might be out of the game. But Charleston Rambo was able to come in and do some good things at wide receiver. Still going to have to wait and see on what's going on with Hollywood Brown. My next takeaway is that Parnell Motley, man, he was toast, as in burnt. And you know, I made a joke about how I buttered my toast with jam, but I can't jam my Parnell Motley because OU defensive backs just don't jam. Look, Parnell Motley had a bad game. At one point, he'd given up 9 of 13 for 169 with 3 pass interference calls. Just bad cornerback play. But at the end of the game, when you needed a stop, Parnell Motley was able to get his hands on the football in such a way that Trey Norwood could come down with it with the interception. And Parnell Motley is still Oklahoma's leader in interceptions this year with 3. That should not be overlooked. Now, nobody watching Oklahoma play defense would say that Parnell Motley is your best corner, but that needs to be mentioned along with his winning the inaugural Jordan Thomas Award for the cornerback, for which Oklahoma Sooners fans just can't stand to watch get embarrassed by an opposing wideout anymore. Colin Johnson had over 170 yards receiving on 8 catches, and most of that came against Parnell Motley. Starting to think that Oklahoma underwrites the Biletnikoff Award. My next takeaway is that Trey Brown is the MVP of the game for me, because his sack, his safety, not only gave Oklahoma a 5-point lead so that Texas couldn't tie it with a field goal, but also was a turnover. Got Oklahoma the ball back for where they could go score again and change the entire tide of what was going on, because it felt like after CeeDee Lamb had fumbled the ball, put it on the ground, gave it back to Texas, they were going to march down the field and they were going to take over the lead once again. But that's not what happened, because Trey Brown went full speed, trucked Sam Ehlinger, got 2 points for the defense, and also was able to look at all the folks that want to say that Oklahoma does not have a championship caliber defense and say, yo, we held Texas in check. They did not drop 30 on Oklahoma. Remember that. They held Texas to under 500 yards of offense in a league where folks put up 500 yards of offense. They got the hard G Ehlinger. They got a turnover. And they held their own at a point when the offense was stalling. So the championship defense argument is now out the window, thanks in large part to Trey Brown, Curtis Bolton, and those fellas, as well as on the defensive line, Amani Bledsoe, big sack. Ronnie Perkins, big sack. Big game out of Neville Gallimore. Just a great game for this 2018 defense, all things considered. Meanwhile, it's still true. We have Kyler Murray and you don't. Kyler Murray went 25 of 34 for 379 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. And that dude was still making Houdini moves with his feet. He completed passes to 10 different receivers. It's safe to say that this offense, which is historic, which is legendary, which is efficient as all get out, could not exist without Kyler Murray at quarterback, and that is a big reason for which Oklahoma won this Big 12 championship. And the last takeaway that I have is the shade is still coming from Texas even in a loss. Tom Herman declined to say that Oklahoma deserves a spot in the college football playoff, saying, I don't really watch a lot of college football, for which you're a head coach of a college football program, the biggest college football program in the country. I mean, it's a cop-out and it's shade, and it's also in keeping with Tom Herman. You know what else needs to keep with Tom Herman? He needs to go remind Brecken Hager that he told the world that he wasn't going to cut his hair until Texas won a Big 12 title. So you're still growing it out, buddy. Go find a stylist or something, because there's lots of Oklahoma fans that are going to be checking in to see what you're doing with your hair. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.